Hello again. I am so very happy you have chosen to spend a little time with me while we read fairy tales in the most original form I can find. Well, let's be honest. Sometimes I skim or abridge fairy tales in the most original form I can find them. I am always so pleased to read these tales to you, as well as the rare and unusual tales you request. But first, before we get to our tale, I want to tell you that our cameraman was actually shown in a local art show here in our city. We're very proud of the cameraman, so let me show you their art. Well, let me show you a tiny bit of their art. If you want to see more of their art, it is actually on our Patreon channel. We're so proud of them. So, let us continue with the request by Mossy, Foxy, Cozy, Mosey, Peter Cottontail, a friend of the channel. When it was requested, I assumed it was just another name for the Shivers. But when I looked it up, behold, it was an entirely new story. The Grimm brothers are clearly very bad at naming things. As I have never read this story before, we will discover it together. So here we go with The King's Son Who Feared Nothing. There was once a king's son who was no longer content to stay at his home in his father's house, and as he had no fear of anything, he thought, I will go forth into the wide world. There the time will not seem long to me, and I shall see the wonders enough. Huh, kind of sounds like a teenager. So he took leave of his parents and went forth, and on from morning till night, and whichever way his path led, it was the same to him. That is an excellent way to get lost. It came to a pass that he arrived at the house of a giant, and as he was so tired, he sat down by the door and rested. And as he let his eyes roam here and there, he saw the giant's playthings lying in the yard. These were a couple of enormous balls. Must not make inappropriate jokes. And 9 pins as tall as a man. After a while, he had a fancy to set the 9 pins up and rolled the balls at them, and screamed and cried out when the 9 pins fell, and had a merry time of it. Wow, that kid is strong. The giant heard the noise, stretched his head out of the window, and saw a man who was not taller than other men, and yet played with his 9 pins. Little worm, he cried, why are you playing with my balls? Oh, the urge is so strong. Just moving on now. Who gave you the strength to do it? The king's son looked up, saw the giant, and said, Oh, you blockhead, you think indeed that you only have strong arms? I can do everything I want to. Oh, wow, disrespectful, overconfident? Yeah, teenager. The giant came down and watched the bowling with great admiration, and said, Child of man, if you are one of that kind, go and bring me an apple of the tree of life. What do you want with it? Said the king's son. I do not want the apple for myself, answered the giant, but I have a betrothed bride who wishes for it. I have traveled far about the world and cannot find the tree. I will soon find it, said the king's son, and I do not know what is to prevent me from getting the apple down. The giant said, You really believe it to be so easy? The garden in which the tree stands is surrounded by an iron railing, and in front of the railing lie wild beasts, each close to the other, and they keep watch and let no man go in. They will be sure to let me in, said the king's son. I suppose if he just calls out, Pizza delivery, it could work. Yes, but even if you do get into the garden and see the apple hanging to the tree, it is still not yours. A ring hangs in front of it, through which anyone who wants to reach the apple and break it off must put his hand, and no one has yet had luck to do it. The luck will be mine, said the king's son. He probably has really good eye-hand coordination due to playing video games. Then he took leave of the giant and went forth over mountain and valley and through plains and forests until at length he came to a wondrous garden. I wonder if he used a map. The beasts lay around it, but they had put their heads down and were asleep. Vicious wash beasts. Moreover, they did not awake when he went up to them, so he stepped over them, climbed the fence, and got safely into the garden. There, in the middle of it, stood the tree of life, and the red apples were shining upon the branches. He climbed up to the trunk of the top, and as he was about to reach out for an apple, he saw a ring hanging before it. But he thrust his hand through that without any difficulty and picked the apple. I kind of feel the giant oversold this. The ring closed tightly on his arm, and all at once he felt a prodigious strength flowing through his veins. When he had come down again from the tree with the apple, he would not climb over the fence, but grasped the great gate, and had no need to shake it more than once before it sprang open with a loud crash. Then he went out, and the lion which had been lying in front of the gate was awake, and sprang after him, not in a rage and fierceness, but following him humbly as its master. Here, kitty, 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 kitty. The king's son took the giant the apple he had promised him, and said, "You see, I have brought it without difficulty." The giant was glad that his desire had been so soon satisfied, hastened to his bride, and gave her the apple for which she had wished. She was a beautiful and wise maiden, and as she did not see the ring on his arm, she said, "I shall never believe that you have brought the apple until I see the ring on your arm." The giant said, "I have nothing to do but go home and fetch it," and thought it would be easy to take away by force from the weak man what he would not give of his own free will, and therefore demanded the ring from him. But the king's son refused. "Where the apple is, the ring must be also," said the giant. "If you will not give it of your own accord, you must fight me for it." I don't feel that was part of the original bargain. Why do so many characters in fairy tales change the rules halfway through? They wrestled with each other for a long time, but the giant could not harm the king's son, who was strengthened by the magical power of the ring. Then the giant thought of a ruse, and said, "I have got warm with fighting, and so have you. We will bathe in the river and cool ourselves before we begin again." The king's son, who knew nothing of falsehood, went with him to the water, and pulled up. Wait, knew nothing of falsehood? This is the son of a politician! Went with him to the water, and pulled off his clothes, the ring also from his arm, and sprang into the river. The giant instantly snatched the ring and ran away with it, but the lion, which had observed the theft, pursued the giant, tore the ring out of his hand, and brought it back to its master. Good kitty. Then the giant placed himself behind an oak tree, and while the king's son was busy putting on his clothes again, surprised him and put out both his eyes. Well, this took a dark turn. And now the unhappy king's son stood there, and was blind, and knew not how to help himself. Then the giant came back to him, took him by the hand, as if he were someone who wanted to guide him, and led him to the top of a high rock. Then he left him standing, and thought, "Just 2 more steps, and he will fall down and kill himself, and I can take the ring from him." But the faithful lion had not deserted its master. It held him fast by the clothes, and drew him gradually back again. When the giant came and wanted to rob the dead man, he saw that his cunning had been in vain. "Is there no way, then, to destroy a weak child of man like that?" said he angrily to himself, and seized the king's son, and led him back again to the precipice by another way. But the lion, which saw his evil design, helped its master out of danger here also. When they had come close to the edge, the giant let the blind man's hand drop, and was going to leave him behind alone. But the lion pushed the giant, so that he was thrown down and fell, dashed to pieces on the ground. One good turn and all that. The faithful animal again drew its master back from the precipice, and guided him to a tree by which flowed a clear brook. The king's son sat down there, but the lion lay down and sprinkled the water in the face with its paws. Seems weird. Okay. Scarcely had a couple of drops wetted the sockets of his eyes than he was once more able to see something, and noticed a little bird flying close by, which hid itself against the trunk of a tree. Ah, poor little bird. So it went down to the water and bathed itself therein, and then it soared upwards and swept between the trees without touching them, as if it had recovered its sight. Then the king's son recognized a sign from God. Okay. And stooped down to the water and washed and bathed his face in it. And when he arose, he had eyes once more, brighter and clearer than they had ever been. I I am not sure how I feel about this. The king's son thanked God for his great mercy, and travelled with his lion onward through the world. And it came to pass that he arrived before a castle which was enchanted. In a gateway stood a maiden of a beautiful form and fine face, but she was quite black. This feels racist. Also, this is apparently the last time we will ever see the faithful lion again, so thanks for all your help, lion. She spoke to him and said, "Ah, if you could but deliver me from the evil spell which is thrown over me." "What shall I do?" said the king's son. The maiden answered, "You must pass 3 nights in the great hall of this enchanted castle, but you must not let fear enter your heart." Hey, this sounds like a job for the simpleton from the Shivers. "When they are doing their worst to torment you, if you bear it without letting a sound escape you, I shall be free. Your life they dare not take." The king's son said, "I have no fear. With God's help I will try it." So he went gaily into the castle, and when it grew dark he seated himself in a large hall and waited. Everything was quiet, however, till midnight, when all at once a great tumult began, and out of every hole and corner came little devils. They behaved as if they did not see him, seated themselves in the middle of the room, lighted a fire, and began to gamble. When one of them lost, he said, "It is not right. Some one is here who does not belong to us. It is his fault that I am losing." "Wait, you fellow behind the stove. I am coming," said another. The screaming became louder, so that no one could have heard it without terror. The king's son stayed sitting calmly, and was not afraid, but at last the devils jumped up from the ground and fell on him, and there were so many of them that he could not defend himself from them. They dragged him about on the floor, pinched him, picked him, beat him, and tormented him, but no sound escaped from him. Towards morning they disappeared, and he was so exhausted that he could scarcely move his limb. But when day dawned, the black maiden came to him. She bore in her hand a little bottle wherein was the water of life, wherewith she washed him, and he at once felt all pain depart and new strength flow through his veins. She said, "You have held out successfully for 1 night, but 2 more lie before you." Then she went away again, and as she was going, he observed that her feet had become white. The next night the devils came and began their gambling anew. They fell on the king's son and beat him much more severely than the night before, until his body was covered with wounds. But he bore all quietly. They were forced to leave him, and when dawn appeared, the maiden came and healed him with the water of life. And when she went away, he saw with joy that she had already become white to the tips of her fingers, and now he had only 1 night more to go through. But it was the worst. The devils came again. "Are you still there?" cried they. "You shall be tormented till your breath stops." They pricked him and beat him and threw him here and there, and pulled him by the arms and legs as if they wanted to tear him to pieces, but he bore everything and never uttered a cry. At last the devils vanished, but he lay fainting there, and did not stir, nor could he raise his eyes to look at the maiden who came in and sprinkled and bathed him with the water of life. But suddenly he was freed from all pain, and felt fresh and healthy, as if he had awakened from sleep. And when he opened his eyes, he saw the maiden standing by him, snow white and fair as day. That really does feel kind of racist. "Rise," said she, "and swing your sword 3 times over the stairs, and then all will be delivered." And when he had done that, the whole castle was released from enchantment, and the maiden was the rich king's daughter. Better than a porking, I suppose. The servants came and said that the table was set in the great hall, and dinner was served up. Then they sat down and ate and drank together, and in the evening the wedding was solemnized with great rejoicing. Wait, I. So what did happen to the lion? And did the giant's girlfriend come looking for him? And is the kid still wearing the ring which allowed him to be equal of strength to a giant? And I need to know these things. This story just stops without answering any questions at all. What? Why do you like this story, Mosey, Foxy, Kazi, Cozy, Mothy, friend of the channel? Is this just because I can't say your name? Oh, I do hope this next story is better. We are going on quite the adventure, friends. I know I'm learning that fairy tales are weird. As we come to the end of another video, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell if you would like to know when my stories come out. If you would like to support me on Patreon, Instagram, or Facebook, there are links below. I would also like to thank Pixabay and all their wonderful contributors for helping to make my videos even better. And now for a special thank you to our lovely Patreon supporters. I am here to thank you, my wonderful and amazing Patreon supporters. We now have 8, well, sort of 10, but 3 of you are together. But it doesn't matter, because I love you all. I was so excited that I had to take the night off here in my beautiful hideaway for a nice drink. So thank you, Robinson, Ida, Teresa, Darren, Brick's Journey, Karen, William, and now Josh, Colleen, and Callum. I am forever grateful to you all. All right, cut. Phew, I think we got away with it. Wait, why are you snickering, cameraman?